Picture this, you're 7 months pregnant, preparing your husband's favorite dinner for your anniversary, when he walks in and says 5 words that will destroy everything you thought you knew about your life. Pack your things and go. But that's just the beginning of Emma's nightmare. Because the millionaire husband who just threw her out, he's been planning this moment for months. The best friend rushing to comfort her, she's been sleeping with Emma's husband for over a year. The mother-in-law offering sanctuary. She's secretly recording every conversation for use against Emma later. What Emma doesn't know yet is that her entire marriage was a lie. Her pregnancy was part of a business plan, and the people she trusted most have been systematically destroying her life while she slept peacefully beside them. This isn't just a story about betrayal. This is about a woman who discovers that everyone in her world is playing a game where she's the only one who doesn't know the rules. But here's the thing about Emma. She's about to learn those rules, and when she does, she's going to play to win. Stay with me for the next 90 minutes, because this story has more twists than a Texas highway. And I promise you, the ending will leave you questioning everyone you trust. This is a story about money, manipulation, and what happens when a woman finally stops being the victim and starts being the hunter. The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across the polished marble floor of the Austin penthouse, as Emma Rodriguez Sterling adjusted the white roses in their Waterford vase for the third time. 7 months pregnant and glowing despite her exhaustion, she stepped back to survey the dining room that had taken her all afternoon to perfect. Tonight marked 3 years since Marcus had first kissed her outside that little coffee shop near the University of Texas campus. 3 years since the brilliant tech entrepreneur had swept her off her feet with his charm, his vision for changing the world, and his absolute certainty that she was the woman he wanted by his side forever. Emma smoothed her navy blue maternity dress, the silk fabric skimming over the gentle swell where their daughter grew. She had chosen this dress carefully, remembering how Marcus had once said navy brought out the amber flecks in her brown eyes. Those were the days when he noticed such things, when he would spend entire evenings just talking to her, sharing his dreams and listening to hers. The timer chimed in the kitchen, pulling her from her reverie. The paella, his favorite dish from their honeymoon in Spain, was ready. She had spent hours perfecting the recipe, teaching herself to make it from scratch because takeout felt wrong for tonight. This dinner needed to be special. It needed to remind them both of who they used to be together. Marcus had been distant lately, consumed by what he called the biggest deal of his career. His startup, Sterling Technologies, was supposedly on the verge of a revolutionary breakthrough in artificial intelligence. The stress showed in the tight lines around his green eyes and the way he barely looked up from his phone during their increasingly rare conversations. Emma told herself it was temporary. Every entrepreneur went through phases like this. Once the deal closed, once the company went public, everything would return to normal. They would be the team they once were, planning their daughter's nursery and dreaming about the family they were building together. The sound of the front door opening made her heart skip. Marcus was home, earlier than usual for once. She heard his footsteps on the marble entryway, the familiar rhythm that had once made her rush to greet him. Now she stayed in the dining room, suddenly nervous about his reaction to her efforts. Marcus appeared in the doorway, his tall frame filling the space. At 35, he still had the lean build of the college athlete he had been, though his dark hair now showed threads of premature silver at the temples. His expensive suit hung perfectly on his shoulders, but his face wore the same distracted expression that had become his default over the past months. "You cooked," he said, his tone neutral as he took in the elaborate table setting, the candles, the bottle of sparkling cider chilling in place of the wine they could no longer share. "It's our anniversary," Emma replied, forcing brightness into her voice. 3 years since our first date. I thought we could celebrate, just the two of us before the baby comes. Marcus loosened his tie but did not smile. "Emma, we need to talk." Something cold settled in her stomach. In her experience, conversations that began with those words never went well. "Can it wait until after dinner? I made your favorite paella, and I opened that good olive oil you brought back from Barcelona." He moved to the bar cart in the corner and poured himself 3 fingers of whiskey. Neat. The expensive crystal tumbler caught the candlelight as he raised it to his lips and drained half the glass in one swallow. "This cannot wait," Marcus said finally, turning to face her. The man who had once looked at her like she hung the moon now regarded her with the cold assessment of a stranger. "Sit down." Emma remained standing, her hands instinctively moving to cradle her belly. Their daughter was active tonight, as if sensing her mother's growing anxiety. "Marcus, you are scaring me. What is going on?" He finished his whiskey and set the glass down with a sharp click that seemed to echo in the suddenly oppressive silence of their home. When he spoke again, his voice was flat, businesslike, devoid of any warmth or emotion. "I want you to pack your things and leave. Tonight." The words hit Emma like a physical blow. For a moment, she was certain she had misheard him. The paella grew cold on the stove. The candles continued their flickering dance. The world kept turning, but everything inside their dining room had stopped. "What did you say?" she whispered. "You heard me. Pack your things. I want you gone by morning." Emma gripped the back of a chair, her knees threatening to buckle. "I do not understand. What are you talking about? This is our home. I am pregnant with your daughter." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I am aware of your condition. Provisions will be made for the child's support. My lawyer will contact you with the details." Provisions. The child. He spoke as if he were discussing a business transaction, not the family they had created together. Emma stared at this stranger wearing her husband's face and felt something fundamental crack inside her chest. "Provisions," she repeated, her voice rising. "Marcus, what has happened to you? Where is the man I married, the man who said he could not imagine life without me? People change, Emma. Circumstances change. What we had was good for a while, but it is not working anymore. Not working anymore. 3 years of marriage, a child on the way, a life built together from nothing, and he dismissed it all with corporate speak." Emma felt the first stirrings of anger cutting through her shock. "Is there someone else?" she demanded. Marcus did not answer immediately, but his silence was answer enough. The color drained from Emma's face as the full scope of his betrayal began to sink in. "Who is it?" she pressed. "How long?" "That is not relevant to this conversation," Marcus said. "What matters is that I want you out of this house. Tonight. Do not make this harder than it needs to be." Emma sank into the nearest chair, her whole body trembling. The baby kicked hard, as if protesting the stress flooding through her system. She wrapped both arms around her belly, trying to shield her daughter from the catastrophe unfolding around them. "You cannot do this," she said, though even as she spoke the words, she knew they were not true. Marcus could do whatever he wanted. The house was in his name. The cars were in his name. Even the credit cards she carried were extensions of his accounts. She had given up her marketing career when they married, trusting him to take care of them both. "The arrangements have already been made," Marcus continued with brutal efficiency. "My driver will take you wherever you want to go tomorrow. You should probably call your parents." Emma's parents, the middle-class family in Houston who had never quite understood what their daughter saw in the flashy entrepreneur from Austin. They had raised concerns about how quickly the relationship moved, how completely Emma had reorganized her life around Marcus's ambitions. She had dismissed their worries, certain that love conquered all practical considerations. Now she would have to call them and explain that their concerns had been justified. She would have to admit that the fairy tale marriage they had eventually celebrated was crumbling into nothing. "Please," Emma whispered, hating the desperation in her own voice but unable to stop herself. "Please do not do this. Whatever is wrong, we can fix it. We can go to counseling. We can work through this together." Marcus was already moving toward the door. "There is nothing to work through. This marriage is over. Emma, accept it and move on." He paused at the threshold and looked back at her one last time. For just a moment, she thought she saw a flicker of the old Marcus, the one who had loved her. But it was gone so quickly she might have imagined it. "Goodbye, Emma," he said quietly. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with the ruins of their anniversary dinner and the wreckage of everything she had believed about her life. Emma sat in the candlelight for a long time after his footsteps faded away. The paella burned in the kitchen. The roses began to wilt in their expensive vase. Her daughter continued to kick, a reminder of the innocent life depending on her to figure out what came next. Finally, she stood on unsteady legs and began to blow out the candles one by one. In the growing darkness, she tried to imagine a future that did not include the man she had loved with her whole heart. For the first time in 3 years, she was completely alone. Emma spent the night on the living room sofa, unable to bear the thought of sleeping in the bed she had shared with Marcus. She dozed fitfully between fits of crying, her hand never leaving her belly as she whispered promises to her unborn daughter that everything would be okay somehow. When morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, reality hit her with fresh brutality. This was not a nightmare she could wake up from. Marcus really had thrown her out of their home and their marriage with no more emotion than he might show firing an underperforming employee. Emma pulled herself upright and reached for her phone. The screen showed 7 missed calls from Jennifer Walsh, her former college roommate and closest friend. Jennifer must have heard something, though Emma could not imagine how. Marcus was not the type to broadcast personal business. She called Jennifer back, and her friend answered on the first ring. "Emma, thank God," Jennifer said, her voice breathless with what sounded like genuine concern. "I have been trying to reach you all night. Are you okay?" Despite everything, Emma felt a surge of gratitude. At least she was not completely alone in this disaster. "Jen, I need help. Something terrible has happened." "I know, sweetheart. I heard about the situation with Marcus." "Listen, can I come over? We need to talk about this face to face." Emma blinked in surprise. "You heard. How could you possibly know already?" "It does not matter how I know. What matters is that you are not alone in this. I am on my way over." "Okay, do not do anything drastic until I get there." 20 minutes later, Jennifer arrived at the penthouse looking perfectly put together despite the early hour. Her blonde hair was styled in its usual sleek bob, her makeup flawless, her designer clothes immaculate. She had always been the more polished of the two friends, the one who seemed to glide through life without ever encountering serious obstacles. Jennifer took one look at Emma's tear-stained face and red-rimmed eyes and immediately pulled her into a hug. "Oh, honey, I am so sorry this is happening to you." Emma clung to her friend, finally allowing herself to break down completely. "He just threw me away. Jen, like I meant nothing to him. Like these 3 years were nothing." "Men can be such bastards," Jennifer said, rubbing Emma's back, "especially when they get scared about becoming fathers. But we are going to figure this out. Okay, you are not going to let him destroy you." They moved to the living room, where Jennifer listened with apparent sympathy as Emma recounted the horrible dinner conversation. She made all the right noises, expressed all the appropriate outrage, offered exactly the support Emma desperately needed to hear. "The important thing right now is protecting yourself and the baby," Jennifer said. "You cannot let him steamroll you in the divorce proceedings. He has all the financial power, but you have rights too." Emma nodded gratefully. Jennifer had always been the practical one, the problem solver. "I do not even know where to start. I gave up my career when we got married. I do not have my own money or my own anything." "Which is exactly why you need to be smart about this. Look, I have been thinking about your situation all night, and I have some ideas. But first, you need to get out of this house. It is not good for you to be here surrounded by all these memories." "Where would I go? I cannot face my parents yet. I cannot handle telling them they were right to be worried." Jennifer squeezed her hand. "You can stay with me for a few days while we figure out a long-term plan. My guest room is all set up, and you know you are always welcome." The offer brought fresh tears to Emma's eyes. "Are you sure I do not want to impose?" "Do not be ridiculous. We have been friends for 10 years. If I cannot help you through the worst crisis of your life, what kind of friend would I be?" Emma felt the first stirring of hope since Marcus had delivered his devastating news. Maybe she was not as alone as she had thought. Maybe she could get through this with Jennifer's help. "There is something else we need to discuss," Jennifer continued, her tone becoming more businesslike. "About Marcus and his company." Emma looked up in surprise. "What about it?" "You know I work in tech venture capital now, right? Well, I have been hearing rumors about Sterling Technologies, financial troubles, missed deadlines, unhappy investors. I think Marcus might be in deeper trouble than he let on." "What kind of trouble?" "The kind that makes a man panic and start making desperate decisions, like pushing away his pregnant wife so he can pursue other options." Emma felt something cold settle in her stomach. "Other options," Jennifer hesitated, as if debating how much to reveal. "I probably should not say anything, but since you are my friend And you deserve to know the truth? There have been rumors about Marcus being seen around town with someone else. A lot. The words hit Emma like a slap. Who? I do not think knowing the details will help you right now. The point is, he has been planning this for a while. This was not some sudden impulse last night. He has been setting up his exit strategy. Emma's hands clenched into fists. The man she had loved, the father of her unborn child, had been methodically planning to destroy her life while she cooked his favorite meals and planned anniversary dinners. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, it took her breath away. We need to get you out of here, Jennifer said, standing up. Pack whatever you need for a few days. We can come back for the rest of your things later. Emma nodded numbly and made her way to the master bedroom. The California king bed was still unmade from Marcus's morning routine, his coffee mug still sitting on the nightstand. Being in this space where they had shared so much intimacy felt like walking through a graveyard of dead dreams. She packed quickly, grabbing clothes and toiletries and the few personal items that had belonged to her before the marriage, her grandmother's jewelry, some photos of her family, the worn copy of Pride and Prejudice she had owned since high school. Everything else in this beautiful prison had been chosen by Marcus or purchased with his money. As she zipped up her suitcase, Emma caught sight of herself in the full-length mirror. The woman staring back looked hollow-eyed and defeated. Nothing like the confident marketing executive who had once believed she could conquer the world. Pregnancy had made her softer, more vulnerable, and Marcus had exploited that vulnerability with surgical precision. "Ready," Jennifer called from the living room. "Ready?" Emma replied, though she felt anything but. As they waited for the elevator, Jennifer's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and quickly silenced it. "Sorry, work call. I will deal with it later." But Emma had caught a glimpse of the caller ID before Jennifer turned the phone away. The name on the screen had been Marcus Sterling. A chill ran down Emma's spine. Why would Marcus be calling Jennifer at 9 in the morning? How had Jennifer known about the situation so quickly, and why had she seemed so well prepared with solutions and advice? Emma told herself she was being paranoid. Jennifer was successful in tech circles. Of course, she might have professional connections with Marcus. Of course, she would want to help her oldest friend in a crisis. But as they rode the elevator down to the parking garage, Emma found herself studying Jennifer's perfectly composed face and wondering what other secrets might be hiding behind her concerned smile. The niggling doubt stayed with her as they drove through Austin's morning traffic toward Jennifer's downtown condo. Emma tried to push the suspicion away, telling herself that trauma was making her paranoid. Jennifer was her best friend, her maid of honor, the one person she could always count on. She had to be able to trust someone in this nightmare. She had to believe that not everyone in her life was capable of the kind of cold betrayal Marcus had shown her. But the image of Marcus's name on Jennifer's phone screen kept flashing in her mind, and Emma found herself wondering if her world was about to get even smaller than she had imagined possible. Jennifer's condo in downtown Austin was everything Emma's life with Marcus had been, but in miniature. Sleek, modern, expensive, and utterly impersonal. The guest bedroom where Jennifer installed her felt more like a high-end hotel room than a place where someone actually lived. "Make yourself at home," Jennifer said, though her tone suggested this was merely a polite phrase. "I have some calls to make for work, but we can talk more over dinner." Emma nodded and settled onto the pristine white bedspread, her hands resting on her belly. The baby had been quiet all morning, as if she too could sense that their world had fundamentally shifted. Emma found herself talking to her daughter in whispers, making promises she had no idea how to keep. "It is just us now, little one," she murmured. "But we are going to be okay. Somehow, we are going to figure this out." Through the thin walls, she could hear Jennifer's voice in the next room. The conversation seemed intense, though Emma could not make out specific words. She tried not to listen, but pregnancy had sharpened her senses, and Jennifer's tone carried an urgency that seemed at odds with a routine work call. Emma must have dozed, because the next thing she knew, Jennifer was gently shaking her shoulder. "Emma, there is someone here to see you." Emma struggled to sit up, disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. "Someone to see me who could possibly know I am here." Jennifer's smile seemed forced. "It is Grace Sterling, Marcus's mother. She says she wants to help." Emma's blood turned to ice. Grace Sterling was a formidable woman, a former federal judge who had built a reputation for being brilliant, ruthless, and utterly loyal to her family. She had never been warm to Emma, treating her with the polite distance reserved for temporary fixtures in her son's life. "I cannot see her," Emma said, panic rising in her throat. "She probably blames me for whatever problems Marcus is having. She never liked me anyway." "Actually, she seems quite sympathetic," Jennifer said. "She said some things about Marcus that might surprise you. Maybe you should hear what she has to say." Before Emma could protest further, Grace Sterling appeared in the doorway. At 62, she remained an imposing figure, her silver hair perfectly styled, her navy suit impeccable despite the Texas heat. Her blue eyes, so like Marcus's, held an expression Emma had never seen before. Compassion, perhaps, or something that looked like it. "Emma," Grace said, her voice softer than Emma had ever heard it. "I came as soon as I heard what my son had done to you." Emma struggled to her feet, acutely aware of how disheveled she must look. "Mrs. Sterling, this is not what I wanted. Please call me Grace, and this is certainly not your fault." Grace's gaze moved to Emma's rounded belly, and something flickered across her face. "May I sit down? We have some things to discuss." Emma looked to Jennifer, who nodded encouragingly. "I will give you two some privacy," Jennifer said, backing toward the door. "I need to run some errands anyway." After Jennifer left, Grace settled into the room's single chair with the careful dignity of someone accustomed to commanding respect. Emma remained perched on the edge of the bed, every muscle tense with anxiety. "You must be wondering why I am here," Grace began. "The thought had crossed my mind," Emma admitted. Grace's lips curved in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "I am here because I have seen this pattern before, and I know how it ends. My son has inherited more than just his father's eyes. He has also inherited his capacity for destruction when he feels cornered." Emma blinked in surprise. She had never heard Grace speak critically of Marcus before, not even in private family moments. "What do you mean?" Marcus's father, my late husband Robert, was brilliant and charming and utterly ruthless when it came to protecting what he saw as his interests. When Marcus was 12, Robert decided that our marriage was no longer serving his political ambitions. He threw me out of our home and tried to take custody of Marcus, claiming I was an unfit mother. The revelation hit Emma like a physical blow. She had known that Grace and Robert Sterling had divorced, but Marcus had always described it as a mutual decision between two people who had grown apart. "What happened? I fought back," Grace said simply. "I had advantages you do not have. I was already established in my legal career. I had financial resources, and I understood the system well enough to protect myself. You have none of those advantages." Emma felt tears threatening again. "Are you here to tell me how hopeless my situation is?" "On the contrary, I am here to offer you what I wish someone had offered me 23 years ago, a way to fight back." Emma stared at the older woman, trying to process what she was hearing. "Why would you help me? You are his mother." Grace's expression hardened. "I am also the grandmother of the child you are carrying, and I will not stand by and watch my son destroy an innocent woman and potentially harm my grandchild in the process." She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. "This is Dr. Michael Torres. He is a therapist who specializes in helping women who have experienced financial and emotional abuse. I have already spoken with him about your situation." "I do not need therapy," Emma said automatically. "I need a lawyer." "You need both," Grace replied firmly. "Marcus did not just wake up yesterday and decide to leave you. This has been planned for months, possibly longer. He has been systematically isolating you, making you financially dependent, positioning you to be as vulnerable as possible when he made his move." The words resonated with uncomfortable truth. Emma thought back over the past year, remembering how Marcus had discouraged her from maintaining professional contacts, how he had insisted she did not need to work because he could provide for both of them, how he had gradually taken control of every aspect of their shared life. "But I have rights," Emma said weakly. "Community property laws, spousal support, which mean nothing if you do not have the resources to enforce them." Grace said, "Marcus has expensive lawyers and unlimited funds to drag out proceedings. You have what, exactly?" The harsh reality settled over Emma like a suffocating blanket. She had nothing, no income, no savings, no assets in her own name. Marcus had structured their marriage to leave her completely dependent on his goodwill, and now that goodwill had evaporated. "What are you proposing?" Emma asked. Grace leaned forward, her eyes intense. "I have a ranch about an hour outside of Austin. It is secluded, peaceful, completely private. You could stay there during your pregnancy, away from Marcus and his lawyers and the stress of this situation. Doctor Torres could visit you there, help you work through the trauma and develop a strategy for moving forward." It sounded too good to be true, which immediately made Emma suspicious. "What do you get out of this arrangement?" "The opportunity to know my grandchild," Grace said simply, "and perhaps the chance to atone for some of the mistakes I made as a mother." Emma wanted to believe it was that simple, but years of living with Marcus had taught her that nothing was ever straightforward in the Sterling family. "What about Marcus? What happens when he finds out you are helping me?" "Marcus is about to have much bigger problems than his estranged mother harboring his ex-wife," Grace said cryptically. "Trust me when I say that his attention will be focused elsewhere very soon." Emma studied the older woman's face, looking for any sign of deception. Grace's expression remained steady, almost serene, but there was something else there, something that looked almost like anticipation. "I need some time to think about this," Emma said finally. "Of course, but do not take too long. The offer of sanctuary is time-sensitive." Grace stood and moved toward the door. "Oh, and Emma, be careful who you trust. Not everyone who claims to be your friend actually has your best interests at heart." The warning sent a chill down Emma's spine. Grace's eyes flicked toward the living room where Jennifer had disappeared, and Emma caught the unmistakable message. After Grace left, Emma sat alone in the pristine guest bedroom, trying to process everything she had just heard. Grace Sterling, the Ice Queen who had barely acknowledged her existence for 3 years, was suddenly offering sanctuary and support. It felt like a trap, but Emma could not figure out what kind or why. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Jennifer. "Had to step out for longer than expected. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen. We will talk tonight." Emma stared at the message, remembering the way Jennifer had conveniently disappeared when Grace arrived, almost as if she had known the older woman was coming. She thought about Marcus's name on Jennifer's phone screen that morning, about how quickly Jennifer had known about the situation, about how prepared she had seemed with solutions and advice. A terrible suspicion began to grow in Emma's mind. She had been thinking about this all wrong, assuming that Marcus's betrayal was the full scope of the disaster. But what if there were more layers to the deception? What if the people she was trusting to help her were part of the problem? Emma pulled out her phone and did something she should have done hours ago. She Googled Jennifer's name along with Sterling Technologies. The results made her blood turn to ice. Jennifer Walsh was not just a venture capitalist with casual connections to Marcus's world. She was listed as a senior partner at Sterling Technologies, a key investor, and according to one recent article, Marcus Sterling's rumored romantic partner, Emma's best friend, her maid of honor, the woman she had trusted with her deepest secrets and fears, was the other woman Marcus had been seeing. The betrayal was so complete, so perfectly orchestrated, that Emma had to run to the bathroom to vomit. As she knelt on Jennifer's expensive marble floor, retching from stress and shock, Emma realized that her world had just gotten much smaller and much more dangerous than she had ever imagined possible. Emma spent the rest of the afternoon in Jennifer's guest bedroom, her laptop open as she dove deeper into the horrifying truth about her supposed best friend. Social media photos that she had somehow missed or forgotten told the real story. Jennifer and Marcus at tech conferences, looking intimate. Jennifer and Marcus at charity galas, her hand possessive on his arm. Jennifer and Marcus at cozy restaurant tables, their body language screaming couple to anyone who bothered to look. The timeline was devastating. The photos went back over a year, which meant Jennifer had been sleeping with Marcus throughout Emma's entire pregnancy. Every girl's night when Jennifer had listened sympathetically to Emma's concerns about Marcus's distance. Every baby shower planning session where Jennifer had seemed so excited about Emma's future. Every moment of friendship had been a lie. Emma's hands shook as she scrolled through more evidence of their relationship. Business filings showed Jennifer as a major investor in Sterling Technologies. Financial documents revealed shell companies linking their assets. They were not just having an affair. They were business partners planning a future that had no room for Emma or her child. The baby kicked hard, as if sensing her mother's distress. Emma placed both hands on her belly and tried to calm her racing heart. Stress was bad for the pregnancy, but how could she stay calm when her entire world was built on lies? Her phone rang. Jennifer's name flashed on the screen, and for a moment Emma considered not answering. But she needed to know how deep this deception went. "Hey, Em," Jennifer said, her voice bright and false. "How are you feeling? I know today has been overwhelming." "Where are you?" Emma asked, proud that her voice sounded steady. "Still running errands. This whole situation with you and Marcus has me scrambling to rearrange my schedule. I want to make sure I'm available to help you through this crisis." Crisis. As if she were not one of the architects of Emma's destruction. "That is very thoughtful of you," Emma said carefully. "I have been thinking about what you said earlier, about Marcus having financial troubles. Right. I probably know more than I should, given my position in the industry, but I think it is important for you to understand what you are dealing with." Emma took a deep breath. "What exactly is your position?" "Jen, I realized today that I do not really know what your job involves." There was a pause, so brief Emma might have imagined it. "I told you, I work in venture capital. We fund early-stage tech companies, including Sterling Technologies." Another pause, longer this time. Where is this coming from?" "I have been doing some research online. Your name comes up quite a bit in connection with Marcus's company." Look, I probably should have mentioned the business connection, but I did not want to complicate an already difficult situation. "Yes, my firm has invested in Sterling Technologies, but that does not change anything about our friendship or my desire to help you." Emma closed her eyes, amazed at how smoothly the lies flowed. "What about your personal connection with Marcus?" Silence stretched between them, and Emma could practically hear Jennifer calculating how much to admit. "I do not know what you think you found online," Jennifer said finally, "but you need to be careful about believing everything you read. People in our industry are photographed together at events all the time. It does not mean anything. So you are saying there is nothing romantic between you and my husband?" "Emma, you are obviously stressed and not thinking clearly. I am your friend. I have always been your friend. Why would I be helping you if I had some ulterior motive?" "Because you want me out of the way," Emma thought but did not say. "Because whatever plan you and Marcus have cooked up requires me to trust you enough to be led to slaughter." "You are right," Emma said instead. "I am probably being paranoid. This whole situation has me questioning everything." "Now that is completely understandable," Jennifer said, relief evident in her voice. "Why do not you try to get some rest? I will be home in a few hours, and we can order dinner and talk through your options." After Jennifer hung up, Emma sat staring at her phone. She had learned something valuable from that conversation. Jennifer was not going to admit the truth willingly. Whatever their plan was, it required Emma to remain ignorant and compliant. Emma thought about Grace Sterling's cryptic warning about being careful who to trust. Had the older woman known about Jennifer's betrayal? Was that why she had appeared so conveniently with an offer of sanctuary? Grace's ranch was starting to look like Emma's only viable option, even if she could not shake the feeling that it too was some kind of trap. At least Grace was being honest about being Marcus's mother. Jennifer had been pretending to be Emma's friend while systematically destroying her life. Emma's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Dr. Torres. Grace Sterling asked me to reach out. I know you are going through a difficult time. If you would like to talk, I have an opening this evening." Emma stared at the message. A therapist recommended by Grace, contacting her within hours of their meeting. It felt orchestrated, but then again, everything in Emma's life felt orchestrated now. Maybe the only way out was to play along until she could figure out who was manipulating her and why. She texted back accepting the appointment. "Dr. Michael Torres's office was in a converted house near the University of Texas campus, the kind of place that felt more like a living room than a clinical setting. The man himself was in his 50s, with kind eyes and an easy manner that immediately put Emma at ease. "Grace told me about your situation," he said as Emma settled into a comfortable chair. "I want you to know that everything we discuss here is completely confidential." Emma found herself telling him everything. The anniversary dinner, Marcus's cold dismissal, Jennifer's lies, Grace's mysterious offer of help. Dr. Torres listened without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions that helped Emma organize her chaotic thoughts. What you are describing sounds like a coordinated campaign of psychological and financial abuse, he said when she finished. The isolation, the financial dependency, the systematic undermining of your support systems. These are classic patterns. But why? Emma asked. If Marcus wanted out of the marriage, why not just ask for a divorce? Why this elaborate cruelty? Because cruelty serves a purpose. Doctor, Torres said, when someone has been systematically broken down, they are less likely to fight for their rights. They are more likely to accept whatever settlement is offered, to disappear quietly rather than cause problems. Emma felt a chill of recognition. He wants me to just go away. More than that, he wants you to go away grateful for whatever scraps he throws you, and he wants you to do it willingly, so he can tell himself and others that he is not the villain in this story. They talked for another hour, with Dr. Torres helping Emma understand the manipulation tactics that had been used against her. By the time the session ended, Emma felt clearer about her situation than she had in months. I want to see you again. Doctor, Torres said as they wrapped up. Grace mentioned that you might be staying at her ranch for a while. I make house calls in special circumstances. Emma nodded, though she still had not decided whether to accept Grace's offer. Can I ask you something? How long have you known Grace? Several years. She consulted with me when she was writing a judicial opinion on a domestic abuse case. She has a deep understanding of how these dynamics work. That information added another layer to Emma's confusion about Grace's motivations. But as she drove back to Jennifer's condo, Emma realized that her options were rapidly narrowing. She could not stay with Jennifer. Knowing what she knew, she could not go back to Marcus. Her parents in Houston were loving, but had no resources to help her fight a legal battle against someone with Marcus's wealth and connections. Grace's ranch might be a trap, but it was the only trap being offered to her with honest labels attached. When Emma walked into Jennifer's condo, she found her friend in the kitchen, opening a bottle of wine and looking perfectly relaxed. The sight of Jennifer's satisfied smile made Emma's stomach turn. There you are, Jennifer said. I was starting to worry. Where did you go? Just for a drive. Emma lied. I needed some air. Good for you. It is important to stay active during pregnancy. Jennifer poured herself a generous glass of wine. So, have you given any more thought to your next steps? Emma studied Jennifer's face, looking for any crack in the facade. Actually, I have. Grace Sterling offered to let me stay at her ranch while I figure things out. Jennifer's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. Grace Sterling, Emma. That sounds like a terrible idea. The woman has never liked you. She seemed sincere about wanting to help. She is Marcus's mother. Whatever help she offers is going to come with strings attached. Jennifer set down her wine and moved closer to Emma. Look, I know you are desperate right now, but running off to some isolated ranch with a woman you barely trust is not the answer. As opposed to staying here with my best friend, who has been sleeping with my husband for over a year. The words hung in the air like a bomb with the pin pulled. Jennifer's face went through several rapid changes before settling into a mask of wounded innocence. Emma, where is this coming from? I told you. There is nothing between Marcus and me except business. I saw the photos. Jen, I saw the business filings. I know you are partners in more than just Sterling Technologies. Jennifer's shoulders sagged, and for a moment Emma thought she might actually tell the truth. Instead, she rallied with a performance that might have been convincing if Emma had not already seen through her. Okay, there may have been some personal involvement, Jennifer admitted. But it started after Marcus told me he was leaving you. He was lonely and confused, and I made a mistake. But that does not change the fact that I care about you and want to help. The lie was so brazen, so completely at odds with the photographic evidence Emma had seen, that she almost laughed. Instead, she picked up her purse and headed for the door. Where are you going? Jennifer called after her. To pack, Emma said without looking back. I am taking Grace up on her offer. Emma, wait, you are making a huge mistake. At least let us talk about this. But Emma was already walking out the door, leaving behind the last person she had thought she could trust. As she drove away from Jennifer's building, Emma felt a strange sense of relief. The lies were finally out in the open. The mask had been dropped. Now she could stop pretending that anyone in her life had her best interests at heart. Grace Sterling's ranch suddenly seemed like exactly what it was advertised to be, a sanctuary for someone who had nowhere else to go. Grace Sterling's ranch sat on 200 acres of rolling hill country, an hour west of Austin, where the Texas landscape opened up into something wild and beautiful. The main house was a sprawling stone structure with wide porches and ancient oak trees that must have been standing when Texas was still a republic. Emma pulled up the gravel drive with her worldly possessions packed into 2 suitcases and a growing sense that she was making either the best or worst decision of her life. Grace appeared on the front porch before Emma had even turned off the engine, her silver hair gleaming in the late afternoon sun. "You came," Grace said, and Emma caught something that sounded like genuine relief in her voice. "I did not have anywhere else to go," Emma admitted as Grace helped her carry her bags inside. The interior of the ranch house was nothing like Marcus's sterile penthouse or Jennifer's magazine-perfect condo. Here, family photos covered every surface. Native American rugs warmed hardwood floors, and comfortable furniture invited people to actually sit and stay a while. "This is beautiful," Emma said, meaning it. "It has been in Robert's family for 4 generations." Grace replied, "I got it in the divorce, along with a few other assets Marcus does not know about." Grace showed Emma to a guest room that overlooked the pasture where horses grazed in the golden evening light. The space was feminine without being frilly, comfortable without being fussy. A rocking chair by the window seemed positioned perfectly for watching sunsets. "I thought you might like this room," Grace said. "The baby's nursery is right next door. When the time comes." Emma's hand went automatically to her belly. "You have been planning this." "I have been hoping for this," Grace corrected. "There is a difference." They sat on the front porch as darkness fell, drinking decaffeinated coffee and talking in a way Emma and Grace had never talked before. Grace told stories about the ranch, about Robert's family history, about the horses she kept more for companionship than any practical purpose. "Why are you doing this?" Emma asked finally. "The real reason." Grace was quiet for so long that Emma thought she might not answer. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of old regrets. "When Robert threw me out, I was completely unprepared. I had let him handle all our finances, all our legal affairs. I had trusted him completely, and that trust nearly destroyed me." Grace's hands tightened around her coffee mug. "I swore I would never let another woman go through what I went through if I had the power to prevent it. But I am not family. Not really." "You are carrying my grandchild," Grace said simply. "That makes you family, whether Marcus recognizes it or not." Over the following days, Emma found herself settling into a rhythm at the ranch. She helped Grace with small chores, took long walks through the pastures, and attended twice-weekly video sessions with Dr. Torres. For the first time in months, she felt her stress levels dropping and her energy returning. Grace was an attentive but not smothering hostess. She gave Emma space when she needed it, but was always available to talk when Emma wanted company. They cooked together, watched old movies, and gradually built the foundation of a relationship that felt more genuine than anything Emma had experienced in years. Dr. Torres's sessions were helping too. He helped Emma recognize the patterns of manipulation she had endured, taught her techniques for managing anxiety, and worked with her to develop strategies for reclaiming her independence. Emma began to believe that she might actually survive this catastrophe intact. "You are stronger than you think," Dr. Torres told her during one session. "The fact that you recognized the deception and removed yourself from dangerous situations shows excellent judgment." "I feel like I should have seen it sooner," Emma said. "The signs were probably there all along." "Hindsight is always clearer," he replied. "What matters is that you see clearly now." Emma was beginning to feel optimistic about her future when everything fell apart again. She was in the kitchen making lunch when she heard Grace on the phone in her study. The conversation was muffled, but Grace's tone was sharp, businesslike. Emma tried not to listen, but something about the intensity of Grace's voice drew her attention. "The recordings are crystal clear," Grace was saying. "Every session, every conversation. She has no idea she is being documented." Emma's blood turned to ice. "Recordings. What recordings?" No, she trusts me completely now. Grace continued. The pregnancy makes her vulnerable, and the isolation has made her dependent. She will be easy to control when the time comes. Emma set down the sandwich she was making with shaking hands. Grace was recording her therapy sessions, recording their private conversations. But why Marcus does not need to know the details. Grace said, just tell him that everything is proceeding according to plan. The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. Grace was not helping Emma out of the goodness of her heart. She was helping Marcus by keeping Emma isolated and monitored while he handled whatever business crisis had prompted his sudden departure. The ranch was not a sanctuary. It was a beautifully appointed prison. Emma crept closer to Grace's study, her heart pounding so loud she was sure it would give her away. Through the slightly open door, she could see Grace at her desk, her phone pressed to her ear. The therapy angle is brilliant, Grace was saying. Any emotional instability we document now will be useful in custody proceedings later. And Dr. Torres is completely reliable. He understands what is needed. Dr. Torres, the kind, understanding therapist who had seemed so genuine, so helpful. He was part of it too. Every breakthrough Emma thought she had made, every moment of healing, had been orchestrated and documented for use against her. Emma backed away from the door, her legs barely supporting her weight. The baby kicked frantically, as if sensing her mother's terror. Emma pressed both hands to her belly and tried not to hyperventilate. She had to get out of here. Now, before Grace realized she knew the truth. Moving as quietly as possible, Emma went to her room and threw her essentials into one bag. She left everything else, afraid that packing thoroughly would take too much time. Her hands shook as she grabbed her purse and car keys. The front door seemed impossibly far away. Every step felt like it echoed through the house, announcing her escape attempt. But somehow she made it outside without alerting Grace. Emma was halfway to her car when Grace appeared on the porch. Emma, where are you going? Emma forced herself to smile. Just into town for a few things. I will be back before dinner. Grace's eyes narrowed slightly, as if she sensed something was wrong. Are you feeling all right? You look pale. Just pregnancy stuff, Emma said, opening her car door. Nothing to worry about. She drove away with Grace watching from the porch, her mind racing. Where could she go? Not back to Jennifer, not to her parents. Who would be the first place anyone would look? She needed to disappear completely. But how did someone disappear when they were 7.5 months pregnant and had no money? Emma pulled over at a gas station on the outskirts of a small town and tried to think. Her phone had GPS tracking, her credit cards could be monitored, her car could be traced. Marcus had wealth and connections that could reach anywhere in Texas, maybe anywhere in the country. As she sat in her car trying not to panic, Emma's phone rang. Grace's name appeared on the screen. Emma, dear, I am worried about you. When will you be back? Soon. Emma lied. I just need to pick up a few things. All right, but please be careful driving. You are precious cargo. Precious cargo. The phrase made Emma's skin crawl. She was not Grace's beloved daughter-in-law. She was valuable inventory that needed to be protected until delivery. After Grace hung up, Emma turned off her phone and removed the battery, something she had learned from a crime show. If they were tracking her electronically, that would buy her a little time. But time for what she had, maybe $100 in cash and a car that could be traced. She was over 30 weeks pregnant and completely alone in a world where everyone she had trusted had betrayed her. For the first time since this nightmare began, Emma allowed herself to cry. Not the angry tears she had shed after Marcus's betrayal, or the shocked tears after discovering Jennifer's lies. These were tears of pure despair, the tears of someone who had finally run out of options. As the sun set over the Texas hill country, Emma sat in a gas station parking lot and tried to imagine a future where she and her daughter could be safe. For the first time since her pregnancy began, she was not sure such a future existed, but giving up was not an option. Her daughter was depending on her to find a way out of this trap. Emma wiped her eyes, started her car, and drove into the growing darkness, hoping she could stay ahead of her pursuers long enough to figure out her next move. The game was far from over. She just needed to learn how to play it better. Emma drove through the night with no destination in mind except away. She stopped only for gas, paying cash and avoiding stations with too many security cameras. Her pregnancy made the long hours behind the wheel uncomfortable, but fear kept her moving. By dawn, she found herself in a small town called Cedar Creek, population 800 according to the welcome sign. It was the kind of place where strangers were noticed, but not necessarily unwelcome, where people minded their own business until given a reason not to. Emma checked into a roadside motel using cash and a fake name, then collapsed on the thin mattress and tried to think clearly. Her body ached from driving. Her daughter was protesting the stress with sharp kicks, and Emma felt the weight of her isolation more acutely than ever. She had turned her phone back on briefly to check for messages, immediately regretting the decision. 17 missed calls from Grace, 12 from Jennifer, and surprisingly, 3 from Marcus himself. Whatever plan they had been executing, her disappearance had clearly disrupted it. Emma listened to one of Marcus's voicemails with a mixture of dread and curiosity. "Emma, I know you are upset, but running away is not going to solve anything. Grace is worried sick about you. We all are. Please call me back so we can work this out like adults. We all are." The casual way he grouped himself with Grace, and presumably Jennifer, made Emma's stomach turn. They were a team, and she was the opposition. The motel room had a small television, and Emma turned it on for background noise while she tried to formulate some kind of plan. She was flipping through channels when a familiar face appeared on the local news. Austin tech entrepreneur Marcus Sterling announced today that his wife Emma is missing. The reporter was saying, Mrs. Sterling, who is 7 months pregnant, disappeared yesterday from a family property outside Austin. Sterling is offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to her safe return. Emma stared at the screen in horror as her own photo appeared. It was a professional headshot from their wedding announcement, showing her radiant and hopeful in a way that seemed like a lifetime ago. Sterling said his wife has been struggling with depression during her pregnancy and may be in need of medical attention. The reporter continued, "Anyone who sees Emma Rodriguez Sterling is asked to contact local authorities immediately." Depression? Of course, that would be the narrative. The unstable pregnant woman who could not handle the pressures of her privileged life. It was brilliant in its simplicity and devastating in its implications. Emma's phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she did not recognize, but something made her answer it anyway. "Emma." The voice was female, older, unfamiliar. "Thank God you're all right." "Who is this?" "My name is Detective Sarah Chen with the Austin Police Financial Crimes Unit. I have been investigating your husband's business activities, and I think you may be in danger." Emma's first instinct was to hang up. After everything that had happened, trusting anyone felt impossible, but something in the woman's tone made her hesitate. "How did you get this number?" "I have been monitoring communications related to Sterling Technologies. Your husband and his associates have been very active since you disappeared." Detective Chen paused. "Emma, I know you have no reason to trust me, but I think I can help you. Can we meet?" "I do not know." Emma said, "How do I know you are who you say you are?" "Call the Austin Police Department and ask for Detective Sarah Chen in financial crimes. They will transfer you to my voicemail, then call me back on this number." Emma did exactly that, and Detective Chen's credentials checked out. When she called back, the detective's voice was urgent. "Emma, where are you right now?" "Why?" "Because your husband just filed a missing persons report claiming you have been kidnapped. He is mobilizing search teams, and he has connections in law enforcement throughout Texas. If they find you first, you are going to be labeled as mentally unstable and possibly dangerous to your unborn child." The trap was closing around her from every direction. "What do you want from me?" "I want to help you disappear properly," Detective Chen said. "And in exchange, I want you to help me build a case against your husband for fraud, money laundering, and financial crimes that have hurt dozens of investors." Emma felt a spark of something she had not experienced in weeks. Hope. What kind of help? The kind that gives you a new identity, financial resources, and protection from people who want to control you. But we need to move fast. How soon can you get to San Antonio? 2 hours later, Emma was sitting in a coffee shop in downtown San Antonio, across from a woman who looked nothing like her idea of a police detective. Sarah Chen was petite, probably in her early 40s, with shoulder-length black hair and intelligent dark eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Thank you for trusting me," Detective Chen said, sliding a manila folder across the table. "I know that cannot be easy after what you have been through." Emma opened the folder and found photographs, financial documents, and what looked like surveillance reports. "What am I looking at?" "Evidence of a Ponzi scheme that has defrauded investors of over $60 million. Detective Chen said, "Your husband has been operating Sterling Technologies as a front for financial fraud for at least 2 years. Emma studied the documents, recognizing some of the names and figures, but not understanding their significance. "I do not understand. Marcus's company was successful. We lived well." "You lived well because he was stealing money from new investors to pay returns to old investors while skimming millions for personal expenses. The technology he claimed to be developing does not exist. The patents he claimed to hold are fabricated. The whole thing is an elaborate house of cards." "But Jennifer Walsh is a venture capitalist. She invested in the company." "Jennifer Walsh is his co-conspirator," Detective Chen said. "She brought in her network of wealthy clients as victims. Together, they have stolen more money than some small countries have in their entire budgets." Emma felt dizzy. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you are the key to proving it. You have access to financial records, personal communications, and insider knowledge that we need to build a prosecutable case. But more importantly, you are in immediate danger." Detective Chen pulled out another document, this one with Emma's signature on it. "Do you recognize this?" Emma stared at what appeared to be a power of attorney document. Her signature was perfect, but she had never seen the document before. "I did not sign this." "I know, but legally, this document gives your husband complete control over your inheritance, your medical decisions, and your legal affairs. Combined with your supposed mental instability, it would allow him to commit you to psychiatric care indefinitely." The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Emma was not just an inconvenient wife to be discarded. She was a witness to financial crimes who needed to be silenced. The pregnancy, the isolation, the documentation of her supposed emotional instability. It was all preparation for having her declared mentally incompetent. "What happens to my baby?" Emma whispered. "Marcus gets custody of a child who will inherit millions from your grandmother's estate when she turns 18. Money he can manage as her guardian." Emma's daughter kicked hard, as if protesting the future being planned for her. Emma placed both hands on her belly protectively. "What do you need me to do?" Detective Chen leaned forward. "I need you to disappear completely while I finish building the case. No contact with anyone from your old life. No use of credit cards or cell phones tied to your real name. Can you do that? For how long? Probably until after the baby is born. Maybe longer." Emma thought about spending the final months of her pregnancy completely alone, giving birth with no family or friends to support her. Then she thought about the alternative, being trapped in a psychiatric facility while Marcus and Jennifer raised her daughter and spent her inheritance. "What kind of help are you offering? A new identity, temporary but bulletproof, enough money to live modestly, medical care under your new name, and when this is all over, witness protection if you need it." It was not the life Emma had planned, but it was a life. More importantly, it was freedom. "Okay," Emma said. "What do we do first?" Detective Chen smiled, and Emma saw something fierce and protective in her expression. "First, we make Emma Rodriguez Sterling disappear so completely that even she begins to forget who she used to be." As they left the coffee shop together, Emma felt a strange sense of rebirth. The woman who had trusted blindly, who had given up her career and independence for love, who had believed in fairy tales and happy endings, that woman was gone. In her place was someone harder, smarter, and absolutely determined to protect her child from the monsters who had disguised themselves as family. The real fight was just beginning. Detective Chen was thorough in a way that made Emma grateful and terrified in equal measure. Within 24 hours, Emma Rodriguez Sterling had legally ceased to exist, replaced by Maria Santos, a divorced teacher from New Mexico who was relocating to Texas for a fresh start. "The backstory is simple and believable," Detective Chen explained as she handed Emma a driver's license with her photo, but an unfamiliar name. "You taught elementary school in Albuquerque until your divorce. You are moving to Texas to be closer to family." Keep it vague if anyone asks questions. They drove to a small apartment complex in a suburb of San Antonio, the kind of place where people kept to themselves, and management asked few questions as long as the rent was paid on time. The furnished one-bedroom unit was modest but clean. Nothing like the luxury Emma was accustomed to, but everything she actually needed. The lease is paid for 6 months, Detective Chen said. There is a prepaid cell phone with only my number programmed in. Use it for emergencies only. Emma looked around the small space that would be her world for the foreseeable future. What about medical care? Doctor, Rebecca Martinez at the community clinic has been briefed on your situation. She will handle your prenatal care and delivery under your new identity. She has experience with women in witness protection. Detective Chen handed Emma an envelope containing cash and a debit card. This should cover your expenses for several months. The card is linked to an account that cannot be traced back to you or to me. What happens now? Now you disappear while I finish building the case against your husband and his partners. Do not contact anyone from your old life under any circumstances. Do not use your real name or any identifying information. If someone recognizes you, contact me immediately. After Detective Chen left, Emma sat in the strange apartment and tried to process her new reality. She was Maria Santos now, a woman with no history and no connections. It felt both liberating and terrifying. The first few days were the hardest. Emma had never lived alone, moving from her parents' house to college dormitories to Marcus's penthouse. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sounds of neighbors she never saw and traffic from the nearby highway. She established a routine to keep herself sane. Morning walks around the complex, afternoons reading borrowed books from the community center, evenings preparing simple meals and talking to her daughter, who seemed to be thriving despite the upheaval in their lives. Dr. Martinez turned out to be a godsend, a woman in her 50s who asked no unnecessary questions and provided excellent care with warm professionalism. She monitored Emma's blood pressure, checked the baby's development, and offered resources for new mothers without prying into Emma's circumstances. Your baby is very healthy, Dr. Martinez said during one visit. Have you thought about names? Emma had been avoiding that decision, as if naming her daughter would make their situation more real. I was thinking about Isabella, she said finally, after my grandmother. That is a beautiful name, Dr. Martinez said. Isabella Martinez Santos has a nice ring to it. Hearing her daughter referred to by the false surname made Emma's chest tight. Isabella would be born with a name that was not her own, in a place where no one knew her real family history. But she would be born free, which was more than Emma could have said a month ago. Emma had been living as Maria Santos for 3 weeks when Detective Chen called with an update. The net is closing, the detective said without preamble. We have financial records proving the fraud, communications between your husband and Jennifer Walsh detailing their scheme, and testimony from several victims. What about Grace? Your mother-in-law is more complicated. She provided the recordings and documentation they requested, but there is evidence she was coerced. She may have been trying to protect you in her own way. Emma was not sure she believed that, but she was past caring about Grace's motivations. When will you arrest them? Soon, but there is something else you need to know. Marcus has hired a private investigator to find you, someone very good and very expensive. Emma felt ice in her veins. How close are they? Not close yet, but closer than I would like. You need to be extra careful. No patterns, no routines they could predict. And Emma, if anyone approaches you claiming to be helping, do not trust them. Call me first. That night, Emma lay awake listening to every sound in the building, jumping at footsteps in the hallway and car doors slamming in the parking lot. Her daughter rolled and kicked restlessly, as if sensing her mother's anxiety. The next morning brought news that made Emma's blood run cold. The local television station was running a story about the missing pregnant woman from Austin, complete with Emma's photo and a tearful interview with Marcus. I just want my wife and unborn child to come home safely, Marcus said, his green eyes brimming with what looked like genuine emotion. Emma has been struggling with depression, and I am worried she might hurt herself or the baby. The interviewer pressed him about rumors of marital problems, but Marcus handled the questions with the skill of someone accustomed to managing his public image. Every marriage has challenges, he said, but I love Emma and our baby more than anything. If she is watching this, please know that I forgive whatever happened between us. Just come home. Emma turned off the television, feeling sick. Marcus was not just searching for her, he was controlling the narrative, positioning himself as the devoted husband while painting her as mentally unstable. Even if Detective Chen's case succeeded, Emma's reputation would be permanently damaged. Her phone rang, Detective Chen's number appearing on the screen. "Did you see the news?" the detective asked. "Unfortunately, it gets worse. Marcus is offering a $100,000 reward now, and he has billboards going up across South Texas with your photo." Emma sank into her chair, feeling the trap closing around her again. "He is going to find me." "Not if we find him first. Emma, I need you to do something for me, and you are not going to like it." "What?" "I need you to make contact with him." Emma's heart stopped. "Are you insane? Hear me out. We have enough evidence to arrest Marcus and Jennifer, but we need them to incriminate themselves on tape. If you call Marcus and get him to admit to the fraud, to the fake power of attorney, to any of it, we can wrap this case up quickly. And if he traces the call, we will use technical safeguards. But Emma, this is our best shot at ending this before your baby is born." Emma looked around the small apartment that had become her sanctuary, thinking about the alternative of hiding forever with a false identity. Isabella deserved to grow up knowing her real name, her real family history, her real mother. "What would I have to do?" "Call him. Tell him you want to come home, but you know the truth about his business. Get him to admit what he has done. We will handle the rest." Emma closed her eyes and felt her daughter's strong kicks against her ribs. Isabella was a fighter already. Maybe it was time for her mother to be one too. "Okay," Emma said, "but if this goes wrong, if he finds me before you can arrest him, you have to promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you will make sure Isabella is safe. Whatever happens to me, she gets placed with good people who will love her and tell her the truth about what her mother tried to do." Detective Chen was quiet for a long moment. "Emma, nothing is going to happen to you. I promise." But Emma knew better than to trust promises. She had learned the hard way that the only person she could truly count on to protect her daughter was herself. And if that meant walking back into the lion's den to bring down the lions, then that was exactly what she was going to do. Emma spent 2 days preparing for the phone call that could either free her or destroy her completely. Detective Chen had explained the technical setup, untraceable routing, voice modulation that would make Emma sound like she was calling from anywhere in North America, and recording equipment that would capture every word Marcus said. Remember, you need him to admit to the financial fraud. Detective Chen coached her during their final preparation session. The fake power of attorney documents, the plan to have you committed, anything that shows intent to defraud investors or control you illegally. Emma nodded, though her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. "What if he does not admit anything? Then we proceed with what we have and hope it is enough. But Emma, you know him better than anyone. You know what buttons to push." That was true. Emma had spent 3 years learning Marcus's patterns, his weaknesses, his psychological pressure points. The man who had manipulated her was about to discover that manipulation worked both ways. At exactly 3 in the afternoon, Emma dialed Marcus's private cell phone number. He answered on the second ring, as if he had been waiting by the phone. Emma, is that you?" She had forgotten how his voice could affect her, the way it could sound warm and concerned even when she knew he was lying. "Hello, Marcus. Thank God. Are you all right? Where are you? I have been worried sick." "I am safe," Emma said, sticking to the script she and Detective Chen had rehearsed. "For now." "What does that mean, Emma? You are scaring me. Come home and we can work through whatever is wrong." "I know about Sterling Technologies," Emma said. "I know what you have been doing." The pause that followed was so long, Emma wondered if the connection had been lost. When Marcus spoke again, his tone was more cautious. "I do not know what you think you know, but you are obviously confused. Pregnancy hormones can cause paranoid thoughts." "I am not paranoid, Marcus. I know about the Ponzi scheme. I know about the fake investors and the stolen money. I know about Jennifer." Another pause. Emma could practically hear Marcus calculating his response. Emma, where are you getting this information? Someone is obviously trying to turn you against me. No one had to turn me against you. I figured it out myself when I realized that my best friend has been sleeping with my husband for over a year. Marcus's voice hardened. You are obviously not thinking clearly. Come home and we will get you the help you need. There it was, the threat disguised as concern. Emma felt her anger rising, which was good. Angry Emma was more convincing than scared Emma. Help like the help Grace was providing by recording my therapy sessions. I do not know what you are talking about. Of course you do not. Just like you do not know about the forged power of attorney documents giving you control over my inheritance. This pause was the longest yet. Emma held her breath, waiting. Emma, you are clearly having some kind of mental breakdown. These delusions about fraud and forged documents, this is exactly why you need professional help. The only thing I need help with is getting away from you and your criminal friends. Emma said, Did you really think you could steal $60 million and no one would notice? I have no idea where you're getting these numbers, Marcus said, but his voice had changed. The warm concern was gone, replaced by the cold businessman Emma had seen that night at dinner. Emma, you are in no condition to be making these accusations. You need to think about our daughter. I am thinking about our daughter. That is why I am never coming back. You do not have a choice, Marcus said, and finally Emma heard what she needed. The mask was slipping. You are my wife. That baby is my child. You will do what I tell you to do. Is that a threat? It is a statement of fact. You have no money, no job, no resources. You cannot run forever, especially with a baby. Come home now and we can work this out. Stay gone, and I will make sure you are declared mentally incompetent to care for our child. Emma's heart was pounding, but she forced herself to keep pushing. With the help of those forged documents, I do not know what you mean by forged, Marcus said. But you did sign power of attorney papers. You were there. You signed them willingly. I never signed any such thing. You did sign them. Emma, maybe you do not remember because of your mental state, but you definitely signed them. And if you do not come home immediately, I will use them to have you committed for psychiatric evaluation. There it was, the admission Detective Chen needed. Emma felt a surge of triumph mixed with terror. You cannot do that, Emma said. I can do whatever I want, Marcus replied, his voice now openly threatening. I have resources you cannot imagine. I have connections in every major city in Texas. I have investigators tracking you right now. You cannot hide from me forever. What about Jennifer? Is she going to help you track me down too? Marcus laughed, a sound without humor. Jennifer is a business partner, nothing more. But yes, she is very motivated to see this situation resolved quickly. Resolved how? However it needs to be resolved. Emma, you are messing with things you do not understand. Come home now, and we can pretend this conversation never happened. Stay gone, and I will make your life very difficult. Emma looked at Detective Chen, who was giving her a thumbs up. They had what they needed. I have to go. Emma said, Emma, wait. Do not hang up. Let me come get you. Tell me where you are. But Emma had already ended the call. She set the phone down with trembling hands and looked at Detective Chen. Did we get enough? We got more than enough, the detective said, her voice grim with satisfaction. Threats, admissions of fraud, conspiracy to commit kidnapping through false psychiatric commitment. Marcus Sterling just talked himself into a federal prison sentence. Emma felt her legs give out. She sank into a chair as the adrenaline that had carried her through the call evaporated, leaving her shaking and exhausted. What happens now? She asked. Now we arrest them, all of them. Marcus, Jennifer, and anyone else involved in the scheme. Detective Chen packed up the recording equipment efficiently. Emma, you just handed us one of the biggest financial fraud cases in Texas history. And my safety, Marcus will be in federal custody within 24 hours. He will not be able to hurt you or your daughter ever again. Emma wanted to believe it, but she had been disappointed too many times to trust completely. What if something goes wrong? What if he runs? Then we will find him. But Emma, men like Marcus do not run. They fight, and in this case, Fighting is going to destroy him. That evening, Emma sat in her small apartment watching the news coverage of the massive fraud investigation that had just been launched. Marcus's photo appeared on screen as reporters described the charges against him: securities fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, and investor theft totaling over $60 million. Jennifer's photo appeared next, followed by shots of Sterling Technologies offices being raided by federal agents. The reporter described a complex scheme that had defrauded dozens of investors over multiple years. The investigation was launched after a confidential informant provided evidence of the fraud. The reporter said, "Authorities are not releasing details about the informant's identity for safety reasons." Emma placed her hand on her belly and felt her daughter respond with a strong kick. "We did it, Isabella," she whispered. "We got them." But her relief was short-lived. As she watched the news coverage, Emma realized that her face might still be recognizable to viewers who remembered the missing pregnant woman from Austin. She pulled the curtains closed and made sure her door was locked. Her phone rang. "Detective Chen." "Are you watching the news?" the detective asked. "Yes. When will they be arrested?" "Marcus and Jennifer are both in custody as of an hour ago. Federal agents picked them up simultaneously to prevent them from coordinating their stories." Emma felt something she had not experienced in months: genuine relief. "What about Grace?" "She is cooperating fully with the investigation. It looks like she was coerced into recording your sessions, threatened with financial ruin if she did not comply. She may face charges, but they will be minor compared to what Marcus and Jennifer are facing." "So it is over?" "The immediate threat is over," Detective Chen said carefully. "But Emma, there is something else we need to discuss. The media attention around this case is going to be intense. Your identity as the confidential informant will probably come out eventually." Emma's stomach dropped. "What does that mean for me and Isabella?" "It means you may need to stay Maria Santos longer than we originally planned, until the media attention dies down and we are certain there are no other threats." That night, Emma lay awake thinking about the strange turns her life had taken. 6 months ago, she had been a happy pregnant wife planning a nursery and dreaming about her daughter's future. Now she was living under an assumed name, having helped send her husband and best friend to federal prison. But as Isabella kicked strong and steady against her ribs, Emma realized she was not unhappy. For the first time in years, she was truly free. Free from Marcus's manipulation, from Jennifer's lies, from the golden cage of a marriage built on deception. She was Maria Santos now, and Maria Santos was nobody's victim. 2 weeks after Marcus's arrest, Emma went into labor. Dr. Martinez had warned her that stress could trigger early delivery, but Emma had not expected her water to break at 36 weeks while she was grocery shopping. The contractions started immediately, strong and regular, giving her barely enough time to call Detective Chen before heading to the hospital. "This is it," Emma said breathlessly into the phone as another contraction gripped her. "The baby is coming." "I am on my way," Detective Chen replied. "Do not worry about anything except bringing that beautiful baby into the world safely." Emma arrived at the community hospital as Maria Santos, her carefully constructed identity holding up under the pressure of labor and delivery. The nursing staff was professional and kind, treating her like any other single mother bringing her first child into the world. Labor lasted 14 hours. Emma had never experienced pain like this, but she had also never felt more powerful. With every contraction, she thought about everything she had survived to get to this moment: Marcus's betrayal, Jennifer's lies, Grace's manipulation, the months of hiding and fear. She had endured it all to protect the life growing inside her. When Isabella Maria Santos finally made her entrance into the world at 3:47 in the morning, Emma understood for the first time what unconditional love actually meant. The tiny, perfect baby in her arms was worth every sacrifice, every moment of terror, every difficult choice she had made. "She is beautiful," Dr. Martinez said, placing Isabella on Emma's chest. "Perfect APGAR scores. She is a fighter, just like her mother." Emma looked down at her daughter's scrunched face and dark hair and felt her heart expand beyond anything she had thought possible. "Hello, Isabella," she whispered. "I am your mom, and I promise you are always going to be safe." Detective Chen arrived a few hours later, still wearing yesterday's clothes and looking like she had not slept. She peered into the bassinet where Isabella was sleeping peacefully and smiled. "She looks like trouble," the detective said. "She gets that from me," Emma replied, and for the first time in months, she meant it as a compliment. Over the next few days, Emma learned the basics of caring for a newborn while processing updates about Marcus's legal situation. He had been denied bail after prosecutors argued he was a flight risk with access to hidden offshore accounts. Jennifer was also being held without bail, and their business empire was being systematically dismantled by federal investigators. They found evidence of even more fraud than we originally suspected. Detective Chen told Emma during one of her visits, "The final total is going to be close to $100 million. Emma shifted Isabella to her other arm, marveling at how natural motherhood felt despite everything she had been through. "What does that mean for the victims? Some of the money has been recovered, but most of it is gone, spent on luxury cars, expensive real estate, private jets. The lifestyle you lived was funded by other people's retirement savings." Emma felt a stab of guilt, even though she knew she had been as much a victim as anyone else. "I had no idea." "I know that. The prosecutors know that. You are not responsible for what Marcus did with money you did not even know was stolen." 2 weeks after Isabella's birth, Detective Chen brought news that changed everything. "Marcus wants to make a deal," she said, settling into the chair next to Emma's bed. They were at Emma's apartment now, Emma having been discharged from the hospital with a clean bill of health for both her and the baby. "What kind of deal? Full confession in exchange for a reduced sentence? 20 years instead of life without parole?" Emma looked down at Isabella, who was nursing contentedly. "What does that have to do with me? He wants to see you, and the baby. He says he will only cooperate if you agree to bring Isabella to visit him in prison." Emma's blood ran cold. "Absolutely not. I told the prosecutors you would say that. But Emma, there is something else. Marcus's lawyer is claiming that you kidnapped Isabella, that you disappeared with his child and prevented him from being present at her birth. That is insane. He threw me out. I know that. You know that. But legally, he is still Isabella's father, and he does have parental rights." Emma felt the world tilting beneath her feet. "Are you saying he could get custody? Not while he is in federal prison for fraud? But Emma, if you want to permanently sever his parental rights, we need to be strategic about this." Emma stood up and began pacing, Isabella still in her arms. Her daughter had been in the world for 2 weeks, and already Marcus was trying to use her as leverage. "What are you suggesting?" "Let him see Isabella. Once, in a controlled environment with guards present. Get him to sign away his parental rights in exchange for the visit. Then he can never legally claim her again." Emma looked down at her daughter's peaceful face. Isabella had no idea that her biological father was a criminal who had tried to destroy her mother's life. Emma wanted to keep it that way for as long as possible. But she also wanted Isabella to grow up completely free of Marcus's influence. If one supervised visit could guarantee that freedom, maybe it was worth it. He would really sign away his rights. His lawyer thinks so. Marcus is facing the rest of his life in prison. He is desperate to find meaning in what is left of his existence. Helping you and Isabella start fresh might be his way of seeking redemption. Emma was not interested in Marcus's redemption, but she was very interested in protecting her daughter's future. What would the visit involve? 30 minutes in the prison's family meeting room. Guards present at all times. You would bring Isabella, let Marcus meet her, and he would sign the papers terminating his parental rights. Emma thought about it for 3 days, weighing the risks against the potential benefits. Finally, she made her decision. "I will do it," she told Detective Chen, "but I have conditions." "Name them." "I want the meeting videotaped. I want you in the room. And I want the legal documents signed before Marcus even sees Isabella. Not after." Detective Chen nodded. "Done." A week later, Emma found herself walking through the security checkpoints at a federal detention facility, Isabella asleep in her car seat. Emma had not seen Marcus since the night he threw her out of their home, and she was not sure how she would react to seeing him now. But as the guards led her into the family meeting room, Emma realized that the man waiting for her was not the Marcus she remembered. Federal custody had aged him dramatically. His expensive clothes had been replaced by an orange jumpsuit. His perfectly styled hair was unkempt. His arrogant confidence had been replaced by something that looked almost like humility. "Emma," he said when she walked in, "thank you for coming." Emma set Isabella's car seat on the table between them, but did not respond to his greeting. Detective Chen took a position by the door, and a guard remained stationed nearby. "The papers," Emma said simply. Marcus's lawyer slid a document across the table. Emma read it carefully. A complete termination of Marcus's parental rights, giving Emma sole legal and physical custody of Isabella with no possibility of future claims. Marcus signed without hesitation. "Can I see her now?" he asked. Emma lifted Isabella from her car seat. Her daughter was awake now, her dark eyes alert and curious as she took in her surroundings. Emma held her protectively, not yet ready to let Marcus get too close. "She looks like you," Marcus said, his voice soft. "She is beautiful. She is perfect." Emma agreed. They sat in silence for several minutes. Marcus staring at the daughter he would never really know. Emma holding the child she had fought so hard to protect. "I am sorry," Marcus said finally, "for everything I put you through, for the lies, the manipulation, the cruelty. You deserved better than what I gave you." Emma studied his face, looking for signs of deception, but what she saw looked like genuine regret. "Why did you do it?" she asked. "Why did you marry me if you were planning to throw me away?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. "At first, it was just about your inheritance. Jennifer and I needed access to capital, and your grandmother's trust fund was perfect. But then I got to know you, and I thought maybe I could have both, the money and a real marriage." "What changed?" "The business started falling apart faster than we expected. Investigators were getting close. I panicked and decided I needed to cut loose ends." Marcus looked at Isabella again. "I thought of you as a loose end. I was wrong about that, and about a lot of other things." Emma felt a strange sense of closure hearing the truth, even though it was painful. "What happens now?" "I take responsibility for what I did. I cooperate with the investigation. I try to make sure as many victims as possible get their money back." Marcus paused. "And I live with the knowledge that I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too selfish and stupid to recognize what I had." The visit lasted exactly 30 minutes. As the guards prepared to escort Marcus back to his cell, he looked at Emma one last time. "Take care of her," he said. "Take care of yourself. Be happy." Emma left the prison with a legal document that made her Isabella's sole parent and a strange sense that a chapter of her life had finally closed. Marcus was no longer her husband, no longer Isabella's father, no longer a threat to their future. As she drove back to their small apartment, Emma looked in the rearview mirror at Isabella sleeping in her car seat and smiled. They were free 6 months later. Emma stood in the kitchen of her new house, a modest 3-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood in San Antonio. Isabella sat in her high chair, enthusiastically smearing mashed sweet potatoes across her face and giggling at her mother's attempts to clean her up. "You are a mess, little love," Emma said, wiping orange goo from Isabella's chin. A beautiful, perfect mess. The house was nothing like the Austin penthouse Emma had shared with Marcus, but it was something much more valuable. It was truly theirs. Detective Chen had helped Emma access her inheritance from her grandmother's estate, money that had been frozen during the investigation, but was now legally hers to use as she saw fit. Emma had chosen to live modestly, investing most of the money for Isabella's future while using enough to buy their home and start a small consulting business. She was working again, helping other women who had experienced financial abuse navigate the legal and emotional challenges of rebuilding their lives. "It suits you," Detective Chen said, appearing in the kitchen doorway. She had become a regular visitor, the closest thing Emma had to family in their new life. "What suits me? Being yourself again, or maybe being yourself for the first time." Emma considered that as she lifted Isabella from her high chair. It was true that she felt more like herself now than she had during her marriage to Marcus, when she had been performing the role of the perfect wife rather than living as her authentic self. "Any word on the appeals?" Emma asked as they moved to the living room. "Marcus's appeal was denied. Jennifer's too. They are both going to serve their full sentences. 25 years for Marcus, 18 years for Jennifer. By the time they were released, Isabella would be a grown woman with her own life. completely beyond their reach. And Grace, house arrest and community service. She testified against Marcus and Jennifer, which helped reduce the charges against her. She has been asking about you and Isabella. Emma had mixed feelings about her former mother-in-law. Grace had manipulated and betrayed her, but she had also been coerced by Marcus's threats. More importantly, Grace had provided the recordings and documentation that had been crucial to building the case against Marcus and Jennifer. Maybe someday, Emma said, when Isabella is older and can decide for herself whether she wants to know her grandmother. Isabella was crawling now, exploring every corner of their house with fearless determination. She was a happy baby, quick to smile and laugh, showing no signs of the trauma that had surrounded her birth. Emma was grateful every day that her daughter would grow up free from the dysfunction that had nearly destroyed both their lives. The doorbell rang, and Emma opened it to find a delivery driver with a large bouquet of flowers. The card was from Dr. Martinez, congratulating Emma on the 6-month anniversary of Isabella's birth. "You have good people in your life now," Detective Chen observed. It was true. Emma had built a small but solid support network. Dr. Martinez, Detective Chen, a few neighbors, and the women she worked with through her consulting practice. It was nothing like the superficial social circle she had maintained as Marcus's wife. But these relationships were real and reciprocal. Emma's phone buzzed with a text from one of her clients, a woman named Sarah who was preparing to leave an abusive marriage. "I did it," the text read. "Served him with papers today. Thank you for helping me find the courage." Emma smiled and typed back a congratulatory message. Helping other women escape situations like her own had become Emma's passion, her way of making meaning from the trauma she had endured. "You know," Detective Chen said, watching Emma with Isabella, "you could write a book about all this. Your story could help a lot of people." Emma had been thinking about that possibility. Not a tell-all memoir focused on Marcus's crimes, but something that could serve as a roadmap for other women facing financial abuse and manipulation. "Maybe someday," Emma said, "when Isabella is older and I can tell the story without putting her at risk." As the afternoon wound down and Detective Chen prepared to leave, Emma found herself reflecting on how much had changed in the past year and a half. She had lost a marriage, a lifestyle, and several relationships she had thought were permanent, but she had gained something much more valuable: herself. Emma Rodriguez had disappeared, replaced by Maria Santos, who had eventually evolved into Emma Santos, a woman who bore her grandmother's surname and carried her own hard-won wisdom. That evening, as Emma rocked Isabella to sleep, she thought about the story she would tell her daughter when she was old enough to understand. It would not be a fairy tale about a princess rescued by a prince. It would be a story about a woman who rescued herself and her child, who chose truth over comfort and freedom over security. "Your daddy was not a good man," Emma whispered to her sleeping daughter, "but you are going to grow up surrounded by people who will love you for exactly who you are, and you are going to know that you can save yourself, no matter what happens." Through the nursery window, Emma could see the lights of San Antonio twinkling in the distance. It was not the glittering Manhattan skyline she had once gazed at from Marcus's penthouse, but it was more beautiful because it represented a life she had chosen rather than one that had been chosen for her. Isabella stirred in her arms, making the soft sounds that indicated she was dreaming. Emma wondered what her daughter dreamed about. Probably nothing more complicated than warm milk and soft blankets and the sound of her mother's voice. Someday, Isabella would face her own challenges, make her own mistakes, learn her own lessons about trust and betrayal and resilience. But she would do it as a free woman, unburdened by the lies and manipulation that had nearly destroyed her mother. Emma placed Isabella gently in her crib and stood for a moment watching her daughter sleep. The little girl's face was peaceful, innocent, full of unlimited potential. "Sweet dreams, my brave girl," Emma whispered. "Tomorrow is going to be beautiful." And for the first time in her adult life, Emma truly believed that was true. Outside, the Texas night was warm and still, full of possibilities Emma was only beginning to imagine. She had survived the worst betrayal she could have conceived, had brought her daughter safely through danger, and had emerged stronger than she had ever thought possible. The fairy tale was over. Real life was just beginning. Emma's journey from victim to victor shows us something powerful, that even when everyone around you is playing games with your life, you still have the power to change the rules. Her story reminds us that financial abuse is real, that trust can be weaponized, but most importantly, that we're stronger than we think when we're fighting for what matters most. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think about the relationships in your own life, or if you just appreciate a well-crafted tale of justice served cold, hit that like button. Your engagement tells me these deep dive stories are worth the time and research they take. And here's something I'd love to know. Drop a comment below and tell me, what would you have done in Emma's situation? Would you have trusted Grace's offer of help? Or would red flags have gone up immediately? I read every single comment, and your insights often give me ideas for future stories. If you're new here and you enjoyed this psychological thriller, consider subscribing. We dive deep into real human dramas every week, stories of betrayal, redemption, and people who refuse to stay down when life knocks them flat. Ring that notification bell so you never miss a story. And if you know someone who loves complex psychological dramas, or maybe someone who needs to hear a story about finding strength in impossible circumstances, share this video with them. Sometimes the stories that matter most are the ones we share with the people we care about. Until next week, remember, everyone has a story worth telling, and some of the most powerful stories come from the moments when we thought we had nothing left to lose. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.